All right, this is Ubaid on behalf of We Electronics, and in this video, we'll be talking about consumer and producer surplus. So this is consumer plus producer surplus. Now, when it comes to your consumer surplus, okay, let's assume that you have this graph over here, and this is your supply, and this one over here, this will be your demand. Okay, we know that as price goes down, demand goes up. As price goes up, supply goes up. All right, so you have demand, you have supply over here. Now this will be your equilibrium. All right, so this is your equilibrium point. Now, when it comes to supply and demand, okay, let's assume that your equilibrium price, and this is for gasoline, let's say this is $1.20. All right, and your equilibrium quantity, let's assume this is 400 gallons. So this is in gallons, okay? All right, and this will be in dollars. All right, now, if the consumers, let's say this is a gas station, consumers would be your gas station. Let's say the consumers are willing to pay a certain price initially. Okay, let's say the price they were willing to pay was $1.40. And notice this price is relevant to your demand curve. Okay, so this is this point over here on your demand curve, which means your quantity, let's say this is 200 gallons. All right, now the consumers or the gas station was willing to pay $1.40 for 200 gallons. Instead, they got more. They got 400 gallons for $1.20, a reduced price, which means their surplus will be the money they saved, okay, when it came to gasoline. So let's say this will be $1.40 minus $1.20 per unit price per gallon, and this will be 20 cents. This will be their surplus. Whereas the producer surplus, let's say the producers were willing to accept and receive, okay, this is your supply curve over here. Let's say they were willing to accept, okay, $1 per gallon for gasoline. All right, so this is $1, okay, and this will be $1.20. So $1.20 is what they ended up receiving, and they were willing to accept $1. So the per unit price difference here is 20 cents. So the producer surplus is 20 cents as well. When you add them together, this will be your social surplus or economic surplus. So this will be your social or economic surplus. All right. Now, apart from this, okay, you also have the concept of price ceiling and price floor. Okay, now price ceiling has to do with the government. So let's say the government was to impose a price ceiling. Okay, and the price ceiling would be somewhere about the equilibrium point, for example. Okay, let's say this is about the equilibrium point. Let's say somewhere over here, and this is your price ceiling. If the government was to impose a price ceiling about the equilibrium point, okay, what's going to end up happening is the producers won't be able to raise their prices about this point over here. Let's say this price is $1.60, which means no matter the price of raw materials, no matter the price of crude oil, okay, and no matter the price of gasoline in the market, okay, no matter the stock prices, okay, the gas station won't be able to raise their prices about $1.60 within that particular state, province, or country. Okay, as a result of which, If the cost of production, let's say the cost of crude oil or gasoline goes up, the consumer would be better off than the producer because the producer would go in loss. Okay, the producer won't be able to break even or won't be able to make profit. Okay, even worse, okay, if the price ceiling was set at this level, let's say at $1, if this is your price ceiling, okay, which is below the equilibrium point, okay, technically speaking, over here, the consumer is far better off than the producer because the producer can't go over $1 per gallon, okay, which means they can't raise their prices above $1. All right, which means that if they go in loss, okay, they may have to shut down their business, okay, because the crude oil prices are going up, okay, the consumer demand is going up, the gasoline prices are going up, the other expenses are going up, wages are going up, so on and so forth. All right, now on the other side, okay, you also have something called a price floor. Okay, now price ceiling is usually imposed for things like rent. Okay, price floor on the other side may be imposed for things like minimum wages. Okay, however, if you consider price floor in terms of the price of gasoline over here, okay, let's say the government was to impose a price floor on the gasoline prices, and let's say this price floor is $1. Okay, this basically meant that the producer would be far better off than the consumer because even if okay, the prices went down, the prices for crude oil went down, and the prices for gasoline went down below $1. Okay, the producer would not have a need to reduce their prices less than $1 per gallon. Okay, as a result of which, okay, the profit is guaranteed for the producer at this point. This would be a new equilibrium point. This is if the producer, okay, was to sell gasoline for $1 per gallon. And this is if, okay, the gasoline prices were to go down below $1. All right. However, if the price floor, and let's assume this is your second price floor, let's say at $1.40. Okay, and the price floor basically meant that the producer would not have a need to sell the gasoline for less than $1.40. Okay, as a result of which, so the gasoline prices went below $1.40. Okay, the producer would still be able to sell gasoline for $1.40, regardless of the market prices. Okay, regardless of the prices in the stock market. All right, so again, this is where the producer is far better off than the consumer. Okay, so this is how price ceiling and price floors work. Okay, and on behalf of B Electronics, this is Obey. Have yourself a great day.